You ever have a day so wild, so utterly out of control, that when you wake up the next morning, you wonder if any of it was even real? That was me not long ago. And if you think I'm exaggerating, wait till you hear what actually went down. I mean, what would you do if you were running late for work, racing through Manhattan, and before your first cup of coffee, you end up taking a bullet for a stranger? Yeah, that happened. It started just after 8 a.m. On a crisp Monday in New York Lexington Avenue, already humming, horns blaring, everyone in their own little universe. My name's Becky Hart, I'm a nurse, and that day, I was already late sprinting like my whole paycheck depended on it. No idea the universe had picked me for something crazy. And not far off, Maria Langford, yeah. That Maria, the business tycoon with her name on more buildings than most people have relatives, was having breakfast with friends at this old-school diner. Nothing fancy, just steel chairs, paper cups, and sunlight fighting its way past the smog. To anyone passing by, they were just a bunch of successful women having coffee. But if you look closer, you'd see Maria was different. Calm, collected, but always watching. Maybe it was the way she held her phone. Maybe the way she never sat with her back to the door anyway. That morning, she was just one signature away from closing a deal that would shake up the global mineral market. And turns out, somebody wanted her out of the game before that happened. Let me back up a sec. Because Amanda, total nobody in a gray hoodie, mid-30s, nondescript, was already there, leaning against a lamppost across the street, just part of the city's static until he reached into his jacket. I caught him out of the corner of my eye as I turned on a third, almost colliding with some guy on a bike. And you know how you just know when something's not right? That was it. His posture screamed intent, and when the light hit just right, I saw the gun. My heart almost stopped. You want to believe you'll know what to do in those moments, but you never down till you do. I dropped my bag, didn't think, just ran. Maria, mid-laugh, totally unsuspecting. The shooter steps into the street, gun raised. The world kept spinning like nothing was wrong until I got between them. The gunshot cracked like it was splitting the sky. Dishes went flying, people screamed, chaos everywhere. I felt this blinding heat in my shoulder, crashed hard into a table, then the ground. My ears rang, blood pouring, vision going dark at the edges. The gunman tried to bolt, but this is New York delivery guy on a bike. 2 construction workers, they jumped him before he could disappear. Somebody kicked the gun away, and the crowd finally realized what just happened. Maria was right there, pressing her scarf to my wound, voice trembling, yelling at me to stay awake. Don't you dare close your eyes. Her hands shook, her friends frozen, sirens wailing in the distance. Ambulance showed up fast. Paramedics shouting, Maria insisting on riding with me. I could barely focus, drifting in and out as the world blurred by. Her grip on my hand felt like the only thing tethering me to earth. At St. Luke's, doctors went into overdrive AVs, monitors shouting for blood, prepping for surgery. Through the glass, Maria just stood there, covered in my blood, eyes wild, looking like she'd seen a ghost. The last thing I remembered before going under was her face, so full of guilt and gratitude it hurt to see. Hours later, I woke up groggy, tubes everywhere, shoulder bandaged, air thick with antiseptic and the relentless beep of machines. Maria was still there, disheveled. No shoes, suit ruined, watching over me like I was the answer to a question she'd never dare to ask. When I stirred, she rushed to my side, voice gentle now, telling me I was safe. It took forever for my brain to catch up. Gunshot, cafe, her name. Maria Langford? I muttered like it mattered. She nodded, eyes glassy. You saved my life, she whispered. I couldn't process any of it. All I could think was, why would anyone do that for a stranger? Maria just shook her head. You acted. That's what makes you a hero. I wanted to laugh at that. Me? A hero? I was just late for work. But she wouldn't let me brush it off. Most people would have run, she said. And I guess maybe she was right. There was a knock. A nurse handed Maria an envelope, black, sealed with a silver clasp. She put on my tray. Not charity, not pity, she said. It's gratitude. Open it when you're ready. She told me the whole country was talking about menus, social media, all that. I felt like a fraud, not ready for any of it. Days blurred. Reporters camped outside. Nurses tiptoed around, starstruck. I hadn't opened the envelope, just stared at it, wondering what could possibly be inside. And then Maria returned. Not alone, this to me a banker, and some guy with a briefcase in tow. I could barely sit up, but she insisted. "Today we begin," she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The banker opened the case inside, a title deed to a penthouse on Park Avenue, plus a letter confirming a $20 million wire transfer to my name. Yeah, you heard that right. $20 million. I thought it was some kind of mistake, a prank. Maria just smiled, all business. "It's yours. No strings. You changed everything." I tried to protest, but she shut me down. "You weren't on duty. You didn't know me. You acted. The world needs to see that." Then, twist of all twists, me mom burst in, eyes swollen, clutching me like I just come back from the dead. Turns out, Maria had flown her in on a private jet. I cried for the first time since it happened, just letting it all wash over me. For the first time, I felt like maybe I was worth something more than double shifts and late rent. Getting discharged was surreal. Cameras everywhere, strangers cheering, security pushing a path to a waiting limo. Maria handed me a velvet pouch inside the car, a key. "To your new life," she said. And for once, I let myself believe it. The city blurred by as we drove, people waving, signs reading Nurse Hero. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. Weeks passed. I opened the envelope, found not just the deed and the money, but a personal letter from one of Maria's investors, a total stranger thanking me for reminding him of his late wife, also a nurse. I started to understand that what I did mattered, not just to Maria, but to a whole world full of people craving hope. I poured the money into more than just a new life for me, paid off debts for dozens of nurses, built shelters, funded a hospital wing for staff in crisis. We started a foundation, the Becky Hart Initiative, make sure nobody who gave everything was left behind. And 1 year later, I stood on stage at the Global Healthcare Summit in Geneva, looking out at hundreds of nurses, doctors, and people whose lives I'd never even known I'd touched. Maria was there, front row, never looking prouder. You know what I mean? I told the crowd. I didn't jump in front of a bullet for recognition. I didn't do it for money. I did it because I saw someone in danger and moved. That's what being human is. The applause was thunderous, but I barely heard it. What mattered was that I finally understood one act of courage can change not just your life, but the whole world's trajectory. Later, Maria and I stood on my balcony overlooking Geneva, the Alps glowing in the sunset. We didn't talk much, just sip tea, breathing it all in. "You taught me purpose," Maria said, her voice soft. "You show me what power is supposed to be for." I laughed, tears in my eyes. One act of bravery, huh? Turns out, sometimes the life you save isn't just theirs. It's yours too. And that's how a late morning in Manhattan, a stranger's instinct, and a single bullet rewrote two destinies. Not just for us, but for everyone willing to believe that courage, real courage, doesn't wait for permission. It just acts. If you were moved by this story, let us know, how did Becky's journey change the way you think about courage, justice, and the power of one decision? What would you have done in her place? Drop your thoughts below, rate the story, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's talk about what real heroism means and who decides what's right, what's fair, and what comes next. Your voice matters.